Sarah, Maddie, I urged quietly from the edge of my bed where I sit tying my shoes that suddenly seemed too small, and I wonder if I might ask for another pair. Now that I am a woman, I seem to be growing so fast. Maddie, you get up now. She rolls over and the blanket that covered her head now falls away from her face. I'm sick, she moans. I cannot see her eyes in the darkness of the room. Maddie's eyes tell me the truth. They tell the truth even when the truth is nowhere to be seen by others, so if I could see her eyes, I would know. But it is too dark. You stop pretending, Maddie. Stop pretending and get up, I urge once more. I will not believe that my sister is sick. The springs of my bed creak as I stand up slowly, planting my feet firmly on the wooden floor, feeling the pinch of my toes as they push against the inside ends of my shoes. I don't feel good, she says. You will be in trouble again, I whisper loudly as I move around the ends of the two beds that separate me from my sister. I don't care, she mutters as she rolls over and faces the wall. I will not believe that my sister is sick. Maddie can be so stubborn, and if she does not get up now, she will pay for her stubbornness once more, and I cannot bear the thought of Maddie being locked away again. Maddie, please get up now, I plead as I sit down on the edge of the mattress. She does not move. Maddie? I hear the quiet panic in my voice. Where is her defiance now? Where is her stubbornness? Maddie! I reach out and touch her lightly on the shoulder, and her body moves up and down heavily. What's wrong? Gracie asks softly as she leans over my shoulder. Is she really sick? I think so, I tell her, but I am not sure. Maddie has often pretended to be sick, or so I thought. Mrs. Dwyer will be angry, Gracie says as she sits down on the edge of her bed. In increasing lightness of the early dawn, I see her leaning forward, her elbows pressing into her knees, her chin settling into the palms of her hands. Maddie will be in trouble again, she sighs. What shall we do? I shake Maddie's shoulder. Sodgetsko, I demand. Wake up! Maddie. Sarah thought I pretended to be sick today. She has often thought I pretended to be ill. I have only pretended to pretend. Maddie, she hissed at me. Maddie, you get up now. I'm sick, I explained. I could feel the skin on my forehead wrinkle as I tried to open my eyes, but the lids were too heavy and I could not force them upward. You stop pretending and get up now, she scolded again as the springs of her bed creaked. I don't feel good, I told her. You will be in trouble again, she whispered harshly. I don't care, I muttered as I rolled over, shivering with cold, a tightness in my chest sending sharp pains throughout my body, making it hard for me to breathe. Maddie, please, get up now. I heard the fear in her voice, and I knew she was right. I would be in trouble. Again. Mrs. Dwyer would seize the chance to scold and punish, to scorn and criticize. You mind your step, she said to me after I was released from the guardhouse, where I was certain I was destined to die. This matter is not over yet, she said. I will watch your every move. Sarah was right. I would be in trouble. I did not care. I could not lift my head from the pillow that gave it no comfort. Maddie? Sarah's voice was so quiet I thought I heard it only in my mind. I thought she might have left the room, left me alone, until I felt her hand pressing against my shoulder. And then I heard Gracie, and I knew that Gracie was still my friend and did not want me in trouble. Again. Satatsko, I heard Sarah say. A life of childhood flashed through my head. I heard my mother calling me to rise for the day. Sahatsko, Maddie! Come now, time to start the day. Mother. With the gentle sounds of my mother's voice urging me to greet the morning, I found my body moving out of my bed. Once more I began pretending that I had been pretending to be sick, while Sarah chided me for scaring her so, and Gracie breathed deeply and sighed as together they hurriedly helped me into my clothes so I would not be in trouble. Again. Yet throughout the day that passed as slowly as the days of summer when we were young, I found Sarah staring at me in motherly fashion. I know she must have known the truth. Sarah. Maddie and Gracie march, one behind the other, off to lessons, but there is no laughter in their footsteps. Maddie's laughter is gone. This morning I stomped in place beside my bed, hoping Maddie would laugh, but she did not even smile. Instead, she looked at me with sad eyes and shook her head and said, You be good, Sarah. Maddie is always good now. If that is being good, I do not want to be good ever again. Maddie. I sit at the machine, my foot pressing up and down awkwardly on the pedal, pushing the material under the needle that bobs up and down and catches the thread. I don't remember the pedal being so heavy. You are very fortunate, Miss Prentice says, standing beside me. Mrs. Dwyer is still very upset with you, and she might have assigned you elsewhere, she explains, nodding as though the sewing room would be everyone's choice if we had one. She places a pile of clothing on the table beside me. These need to be done by the end of tomorrow. Most should be done by hand, she says, and I wonder if the pile has been waiting for me to return. I do not answer. Tomorrow, Mattie. Do you hear me? I do not think about tomorrows, not any more. I can only think about today. Mattie, she says sharply. Yes, ma'am. Sarah. They should have sent her home. They should have sent her home to father. They should have let her rest where she could hear the river of our childhood beating against the shore, perfect rhythm for her heart, which beats no longer. They should have sent her home. She called out to me in the night, unaware I had crawled into the bed beside her. We lay there together, her body shaking with cold, her nightgown drenched with sweat, my body shaking with fear, my gown wet from hers. I wrapped my arms around her body, which had grown smaller and smaller since we had left home. I wrapped my arms around her body, holding her so close our hearts could have been one, if hers had not been beating harder and faster than my own, if hers had not been crying out for peace, while mine cried out in fear. And when morning came, and I awoke from the sleep that we both had finally found, my arms were still wrapped around her body, but I was alone. They should have sent her home. They should have sent her home to father. Ida said father must pay to have Mattie at home, and that we must be very poor if our father cannot. She said she heard Mrs. Dwyer being angry with Miss Weston. She said she heard her say that a telegram had been sent, that Mattie's father knew, and that the matter was closed, and that it was not Miss Weston's business. And so I had better not say anything to Mrs. Dwyer, because she was very, very upset with me because I did not tell her that Mattie was sick. They should have sent her home. They should have sent her home to father. They should have sent her home to so father's farewell was not the memory of a train clanging as it left the station. Does father know when Mattie's breath stopped? Will father know when 10 days have passed so the feast can begin? When my mother died, the message was told. The Gawil, the good word of the Creator, that we should put our grief aside when we have had our one last look at our mother, and that when the feast begins, her soul will return to partake of it with us. And so we took our last look, and she was buried near the river, near her own mother, whose soul had left us not so long before, and then the days went by, and we had the feast, and our mother's soul was there, and the many gifts were given to those who came and helped when her body died. How will father leave his grief behind if he cannot take his one last look? How will he know Mattie's soul is free if there is no feast? They should have sent her home to father. They should have sent her home. Mattie. They should have sent me home. I wish I could say it does not matter, but it does. I wish I could tell Sarah that it does not matter, but it does. My body lies in unfamiliar ground, with other children I never knew, tucked away behind a building, far away from the grassy knoll that feels the softness of the wind that comes across our river, which is where I would rest if they had sent me home. My spirit knows it does not matter. It is no longer separated from my mother and her mother and her mother. But I remember well how comforting it was to walk over the earth where they lay, how not long before we left, for our long journey on the train, I had sat on the grass above my mother and felt comforted by her memories, not mourning, not grieving, only remembering. Above me now, Sarah stretches out on the ground, the palms of her hands blending into the earth where no grass yet grows, searching for comfort. But she will not grow old in school. Who will sit above me when she has grown and gone? Where will she find her comfort when she is old? I hope she will grow old at home near a river so wide that the waves flow in and out against the shore and soothe us in our sleep, even in our endless sleep. I hope she will grow old. I called out to her in the night, and soon I knew she was beside me, her body so hot and shaking so much, I wondered if she too was ill. I felt her heart pounding, her body pressed protectively against me, or maybe it was mine. I tried to tell her I was not pretending, but with her arms wrapped tightly around me, I knew she knew I was not. I wanted to tell her that if Mrs. Dwyer should come unexpectedly into the room, she should tell her I was not pretending. I could hear the words forming in my head, but when I spoke them, I could not hear them in my ears. But it did not matter. When I was buried, Sarah and Gracie and Ruthie were there. Miss Weston and Mr. Davis were there. Even Miss Prentice was there. But Mrs. Dwyer stayed in her room. I wonder if Mrs. Dwyer thought I was pretending to be dead. Sarah. The days have passed. 10 days have passed. I gave your notebook to Miss Weston. I gave your combs to Gracie. At each meal today, I ate everything, even though I was not hungry. It was the best I could do. Why in Hanwi? Sarah. Miss Hunter watches over me while I work, waiting for me to do what? I do not know. I would like to think she cares about me, that she cares that my sister is no longer, but I think she only cares that I do my work. And I will. I will do my work, and I will be good, for Mattie, when it is right to be good. I will do my work, and I will be good, for me, when it is right to be good. I stand at the sink and scrub the spots clean. The brush is coarse, and if I scrub too hard, the bristles scrape against the side of my hand. But I do not care. I will do my work and be good, when it is right to be good. Sarah, Miss Hunter shouts from across the room, surely you must be finished with that apron. Her voice startles me so that my shoulders jump upright and the brush flies out of my hand, landing with a clunk on the stone floor. My goodness, child, she says with a sigh, so deep it says I make her tired. I fix my face so that she cannot see my anger, and turn toward her in time to see her standing with her hands on her hips and her head shaking back and forth, and I know that she only cares about the work and not about me or my sister. Aktia, my older sister. I'm sorry, I tell her. Pick it up, she says insistently, and I wonder if she thinks I would not think to pick it up without her telling me so. When she sees me bending down to retrieve the brush that has slid in its soapiness under the sink, she storms off toward Ruthie and the other girls who have stopped to stare. Come, come, girls, back to work, she commands. So much fuss over a silly brush, Mattie would think. So much fuss over cleaning clothes, Mattie would think. I often think now how Mattie would think. On hands and knees, I crawl under the counter that holds the metal sink and its iron drain pipes that twist and turn underneath. I reach for the brush, but as I wrap my fingers around its wooden end, it slips away once more, sliding even farther, and I find myself laughing inside for the first time in many days, laughing that a brush could be so mischievous, finding its own stubborn way to avoid the work. I think how Mattie would laugh out loud. Life has returned, but to a brush. It too does not want to work, scrubbing the spots off an apron whose owner it does not know. I creep farther into the darkness, wondering if I crawled far enough away, would Mrs. Hunter wonder where I went? I laugh again inside to think of Mrs. Hunter crawling on her hands and knees under the sink to look for me hiding in the darkness. Sarah, her voice barks above me. What are you doing under there? My laughter leaves. Looking for the brush, I tell her. It slipped away. Well, find it and get back to work. Yes, Mrs. Hunter. I hear her rustling away. I reach around behind the drain pipe where the brush has slid and scoop it back toward me without lifting it up. And as the tips of my fingers brush against the pipe, they are met with a sharp stab of pain. Ouch! I whisper to myself, not wanting Mrs. Hunter to return. I lean forward to suck the pain away from my throbbing finger, and as I bend my head downward, a glint of metal catches my attention. The pain in my finger stops instantly, and a pounding in my chest begins, and I cannot breathe, for the lack of air in my throat makes me gasp and choke, and I dare not make a sound. Mrs. Dwyer's pin stares at me. Mrs. Dwyer's pin, Mrs. Dwyer's ugly pin, Mrs. Dwyer's ugly, dreadful pin, only a few inches from my face. My sister is saved. But Mattie is gone, and there is no saving her any more. I snatch the pin and clutch it to my chest. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I want to jump up and dance around the room and run out the door and across the yard and shout, Look, look, everyone! Can you see? Can you see now that my sister is not a thief? Everyone will know the truth. Everyone. But Mattie knew the truth, and I knew the truth. But Mrs. Dwyer will never see the truth. Will she believe me? Will she believe that her pin has been hiding under the sink? Will she think I put it there? Will she think I put it there to protect my sister? What do I do? I should be good. I should give Mrs. Dwyer her pin and hope she can see the truth. But Mrs. Dwyer would have her pin back, and I still would not have Mattie. I should be good, but it is not right time to be good. Sarah, Miss Hunter shouts, what are you doing? I have it, I respond quickly. With the pin in one hand and the brush in the other, I moved slowly backward, the heels of my hands and the toes of my shoes pressing into my stone, toward the openness of the room, inch by inch, my brain searching for a plan. Just as the darkness begins to fade, replaced by a dim light of the laundry, my toes catch in the iron grate of the drain, which allows the water that splashes from the sinks and tubs to flow into the earth below. My decision is made. As I lift the found brush into the air for Mrs. Hunter and all to see, my left hand slides smoothly over the grate, and as I unclench my fist, releasing the cause of my sister's misery into the emptiness below, I yell loud enough to cover any splash, any clink, any thud that might occur. "Here it is! I found it!" Sarah. Come, let's line up, Ida commands as we prepare to leave the dining hall to return to our rooms after the evening meal. I do not mind marching so much any more. I do not even mind Ida. She has not looked at me since Mattie was buried. But I look at her. I look at everyone. "Ready? March!" she calls out. Mrs. Dwyer stands in the doorway, nodding approvingly as we pass, pleased with Ida in her new role as captain. We are supposed to look straight ahead, but I turn my head slightly and look at her, directly into her black eyes. She looks away. Across the gravel drive and onto the pathway, swinging our arms in unison, we stride, Gracie in front and Ruthie behind, the three of us in a long line of girls, marching to the dormitory. Up the steps and into the main hall, where the older girls fall quickly into their rooms, while the rest of us continue up on the second floor. When we enter the long room, we break ranks. Gracie goes directly to the box at the end of her bed to collect her books and paper for study time, but Ruthie tugs at my sleeve. "Bring your spellers," she says. "I need help." Gracie and Ruthie and I now sit together to do our lessons, helping one another the way Mattie would help me. "I will," I tell her. "Go ahead." When I turn toward my own place in the room, I am surprised by the presence of Mr. Davis. We often see him working in and around our building, fixing, cleaning, sweeping, but never so late. "Evening, Miss Sarah," he says, giving me a nod and a slight smile. "I's fixed dat bottom drawer for you." His words confuse me. He fixed my bureau long ago. He fixed a handle, not a drawer. "Took a little work," he says seriously, "but should be just fine now," he adds as he heads out the door and into the hall. "Everything'll be just fine." I stare at this man who is my friend, this man who was my friend when all seemed lost, this man who now confuses me. He vanishes down the hall, and for a moment I continue to stare at the empty space. I look at my bureau. There is nothing wrong with my bureau, nothing wrong with my bottom drawer. I walk slowly to my bureau and stand before it, running my fingers back and forth across the top. I can feel my heart pulsing in my head, but it is not fear, only confusion. I tell myself I am not afraid. I am not going to be afraid ever again. Not of anything. Not of anyone. "Sarah, you coming?" Gracie asks, standing in the doorway, waiting for me to go with her and Ruthie to the study room. "Go ahead," I tell her. "I'll be there soon." I wait until the room is emptied. It is so quiet I hear only my own breathing. I kneel down onto the wooden floor and gently pull open the bottom drawer, which slides out easily. The scarf my mother made lies folded neatly, and though I had no reason to worry, a wave of relief rushes through me. It is there. Why should it not be? I reach into the drawer to pat my scarf lovingly, feeling somewhat silly at my concern for its safety, feeling ashamed that perhaps I had thought Mr. Davis's intrusion into my bureau might have meant my most valued possession was in some danger, and as my fingers touch the softness of the wool, I feel a stiffness underneath. In the quiet emptiness of the room, I hear my breath rushing in and out, making short gasping sounds as I search for air. I pull the scarf out quickly and clutch it to my heart, and though I promised Mattie I would never cry again, I cannot stop the tears from flowing. There, tucked in among my nightclothes, there under the scarf my mother made with love for me, was Mattie's gift from her. Mattie's beautiful basket. Mattie's beautiful sweetgrass basket.